I want to talk to you about an extreme case of fear and sadness first. And that's the mother of Musa alayhi salam. I can't think of a more extreme case of a woman who had to do something so incredibly unthinkable. She knows that any minute from now, soldiers are going to break her door and they're going to kill her baby in front of her own eyes. For a mother to imagine the murder of her own newborn baby, unthinkable. And the only idea she had that Allah put in her is you need to put your child in a basket and put that basket, alqihi fil yam, throw it into the river. It's not even nicely, gently put it into the river. Ilqa is to throw. Now when you throw something in a river, the river is moving water. When you throw something in a river, it can flip. It's also the case that a basket may not necessarily float. It may get water inside. It may hit a rock. There are animals inside the water. There are all kinds of things. As a matter of fact, when I used to teach the story a long time ago, I used to give the example, when you see a child go even 2 feet near a swimming pool, not even the deep end, the shallow end, a mother will go crazy. She'll drop everything and push people out of the way and grab her baby. There are women that give their babies a bath, in the tub, and they put the water this little. And the baby's like, come on, no, too dangerous, this much is you'll drown. I can't even fit my head in. No, not gonna let you. There's a fear. And this mother has to take her newborn. He can't even crawl yet. He can't even do that yet. And she has to throw this thing into the water. Can you imagine the kind of fear this woman has in her heart when she does that? And when she does that, she can't even look at it and can't even cry and scream, my baby, my baby. She can't do that, because if she does that, the soldiers will know one survived and they'll go after him and kill him. So she has to not even if she looks, she has to look from the side. And then this water is not standing still, it's moving. So this basket is slipping away from her sight to the point where she doesn't even know what happened to it. She has no idea what's happened to it. And now she's living with this incredible, overwhelming sadness. What have I just done? What's going to happen to my baby? And in those moments, Allah Azza wa Jal told her, لا تخافي ولا تحزني. Don't be afraid. Don't feel sadness. And even though she still felt afraid, and she still felt sadness, what we're learning in these ayat is Allah will help you overcome not being drowned by fear and not being drowned by sadness. He can let you navigate those two feelings. Those two feelings are very powerful. They're enough to drive someone mad. They're enough to drive someone to the point where they don't want to live anymore. It can be that powerful. And yet Allah can give you the strength to overcome what you and I don't have the strength to overcome. This mother, like no other mother, could stand doing that and survive. So Allah says, وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى فَارِغًا. Musa's mother's heart was, you can think of the imagery as it was bleeding out. It was emptying out. It's like her heart was exploding. إِن كَادَتْ لَتُبْدِي بِهِ. She was on the verge of just screaming out, that's my baby, I want my baby back. She was on the very verge of it. She couldn't hold it in. لَوْلَا أَرَّبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قَلْبِهَا. Had we not tied her heart up, like literally something's about to shatter and leak, and Allah says He, like a rope, tied it up and held it in place. What are we learning? We're actually learning that you and I are not capable of controlling our emotions until Allah gives us the strength to do so. The situation didn't change. The baby didn't start flying instead of floating in the water. The reality didn't change, but her heart changed. Her heart was strengthened by divine intervention from Allah Himself. لَوْلَا أَرَّبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قَلْبِهَا. And she's not a prophet. What we're learning in these ayat is that Allah will give you and me a strength to our hearts that we'll be able to overcome the most powerful fear and the most powerful sadness, the deepest kind of sadness. He'll make us strong enough, not that those things will go away, but you'll be strong enough to go through it. You won't collapse. Your heart won't fall apart. And He says all of this, لِتَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, so she may be from those who truly believe. She could truly hold on to faith. She won't ever accept that my baby drowned. She won't accept that. She'll hold on to her faith, she'll hold on to hope. As a matter of fact, in this ayah, for her to be a believer actually is the same as for her to be hopeful. One of our connections with Allah, that bond with Allah, we pray to Allah, we put our hope in Allah. What Allah gives us from Him is that glue that holds our heart together and keeps it from being shattered. He gives us that strength. This is actually what I wanted to talk to you about from the ayah of Surah Fussilat. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ. No doubt about it, those who declared, our master is Allah. Seems like a pretty simple statement. Our master is Allah. It's not a simple statement. You're not just saying our creator is Allah, or the one we worship is Allah. You're calling Him your Rabb. Our Rabb is Allah. Rabb is a mun'im. Rabb is someone who does favors for you you don't deserve, and keeps giving you what you don't deserve. That's the first meaning of Rabb. So Allah is one for us who will give me more than I deserve. And He will keep giving me more than I deserve. And He will keep making, and mun'im also means the one who gives in'am, meaning the one who makes things easy. He's the one who's going to keep making things easy for me. That's who He is to me. I've declared that when I called Him Rabb, al-mun'im. Wal-murabbi. He's the one who is going to make sure that I continue to grow, that I continue to progress, that I'm not going to stay in place. If I'm in a problem, He's going to allow me to grow out of that problem. If I'm in a state of weakness, He will give me the strength, like a plant grows and turns, like a little blade turns into a tree. He'll give me the strength to navigate and to be able to overcome the weakness that I have. This is al-murabbi. Wal-qayyim, the one who's going to make sure I don't fall apart. Just because you're ensuring something is growing doesn't mean you're not taking care of the problem. You know, you can build a building and you're building more and more floors, but the foundation's falling apart. The whole thing's going to collapse. Allah will hold me in place, take care of me and not let me collapse. He's my Rabb. Wal-qayyim. Was-sayyid. And He is in charge. He's in charge of what I do. He's taken total authority over me. I'm not in charge anymore. You know, again, maybe imagery will help you understand this. If you are bad at swimming and you find yourself in the middle of the ocean and you're splashing and doing whatever you can and nothing's helping. Water keeps going up your nose and in your mouth and nothing seems to be helping and you're getting exhausted. And until you realize there's someone holding you from underneath, you just need to relax and just let go. And He's just keeping you floating. He's not going to let you drown. When you let go, that's actually Rabbuna Allah. Our master is Allah. Whatever struggle, storm I'm going through, He's not going to let me drown. He's holding me in place. Those who openly declare that, they acknowledge that they are not in control of their situation. They acknowledge that they cannot control other people's opinions. They acknowledge they cannot control what any of the creation of Allah does. When anybody else, and you know, some of you spend your days and nights thinking about how this person is going to harm me. What are they going to say? What are they going to do? What are they going to think? This is what's going on in your head all the time. You're preoccupied with it. And when you accept Rabbuna Allah, you let that go. Because the one who's protecting you, and the one who's keeping you in place, and the one who's going to navigate you through the storm, you've declared, you've handed it over to Him. You've let go. Rabbuna Allah. And that declaration is so powerful, it's a kind of freedom. There are so many of us who make so many decisions in our life. As a matter of fact, so many of our emotions in our life are controlled by other people. They're controlled by other people. How sad you are, how angry you are, how hurt you are. We're letting other people control how we feel. And when you really truly declare, my master is Allah, the power creation has over you disappears. Like they're just creations. They have no power when Allah doesn't give them that power. And when He strengthens your heart, then whatever they have to say and do bounces right off of you. And it doesn't hurt you anymore. Again, reality doesn't change. You change. You change. I'll give you another quick example of that. You know, there was a terrible slander that the ayat I was sharing with you previously, I'll come back to that series soon. The ayat I was sharing with you about the slander against Aisha radiallahu anha. Ayat came of the Quran. Ayat came of the Quran and she felt relieved. She felt relieved. But you know what? The hypocrites were still hypocrites. The filthy mouth was still a filthy mouth. People were still saying what they were saying. That didn't change. For the believers, they recognized it and they made tawbah and they changed. But for people who had dirt in their hearts, they didn't change. So the hurtful words and the hurtful slander and the hurtful accusations continued. As a matter of fact, they continue until this day. They continue until today. And yet she's relieved. Reality didn't change. Allah didn't send those ayat to silence everybody. Because that's not going to happen. Allah doesn't do things that way. They let them dig their grave. That's fine. Allah sent those ayat so those who believe can have strength. Their heart could be tied. Their heart could find peace. That's actually إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ. Then he says, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. They didn't just say our master is Allah. Then they lived a life of trying to stand up straight. They lived a life of holding on to Rabbuna Allah. Not letting anybody else pull them down. Not letting anybody else get control. Not letting anybody else become their owner. Not emotionally, not physically, not financially, not in terms of their temptations. They recognized Allah's supreme authority and control and care over them. And they reminded themselves of that over and over again. You know, istiqamah in Arabic doesn't just mean to be straight. They use it for poetry. Istiqamah shi'r, ittazana. Or azala iwajahu. Like when the poet used to write a poem, it didn't totally rhyme. So he would make adjustments to fix it until it's finally even. All the rhymes are even and all the lines are even, all the syllables line up. That's the idea of istiqamah. In other words, you don't just say, my master is Allah and now you're perfect. No, you keep struggling to fix yourself. You find yourself leaning this way. A little too much fear in your life and you pull yourself together. And you don't let that fear overwhelm you. You find too much sadness in your life and you remind yourself of Allah and you hold on to Allah again and He pulls you back together again. The idea of holding on to Allah to overcome and to be able to navigate your grief and your sadness. Again, I remind you, as I said in the beginning, our faith in Allah will not get rid of our grief. And our faith in Allah will not get rid of our sadness and will not get rid of our fear. But it will make us strong enough to overcome them. Strong enough to go through them without breaking us. It is in those moments of fear and of sadness and of grief, that is when shaitan comes and wants you to let go of Allah. Because shaitan feeds you something else. Shaitan says, if Allah is so great, why are you upset? If Allah is so awesome, why did you have to go through all this sadness? Allah could have just gotten rid of your sadness. He could have created a situation where you had to experience no sadness. Why did you have to go through it? Why do you have to have these fears? Why do you deserve this anxiety? Let go of Allah. He's not doing anything for you. That's shaitan's most powerful opportunity in those moments. In those moments. And yet Allah here says, if you can not only declare that your master is Allah, but you can hold on to that deep inside you, not from someone else, for yourself. If you can do that, then what does He say? تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ. If people can live a life of doing that and holding on to Allah that way, then as they're dying, as they're leaving this world, people around them are crying. They can't even speak anymore. They're on their deathbed. And yet they can see what their relatives can't see. They can see angels come down. And angels are having a conversation with a person on their deathbed. And they're telling him or her, you don't have to fear anymore. There's no more fear at all. And there's no more sadness at all. Congratulations, you're going to heaven. وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. And then they add something. This is at the end of their life. They're not even in their grave yet. They're not even in their grave yet. And yet they're being told you're going to heaven by angels. Everybody else is crying. They're the ones smiling inside. Everybody thinks, oh, this is so sad. This is such a tragedy. And this is the greatest moment of their life. This is the greatest moment because they lived that. They navigated that storm. When they're in that moment, what do the angels tell them? They tell them, نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. We were your guardian angels. We were protecting you in this life and we will also in the next life. Allah sent us a special security team just for you. When you were being overwhelmed and you held on to Allah, we became your security around your heart. When you were overwhelmed with grief and sadness and fear, we were the ones that Allah used to send for you. We were the ones that guarded you. We were the ones that shielded you from the whispers of the devil. We were there all along. They're introducing themselves to you. You're meeting them for the first time. They've known you your whole life. نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ Ya Rabb. That's the promise of Allah to those who hold on to Him. To those who can hold on to Him. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is, at the moment of death, we are alone. When you live a life, and you're about to part from this life, you don't take anybody with you. You're alone. Your questioning is alone. But remarkably in this ayah, everything is in the plural. قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا. Everything is plural. Don't be afraid, all of you. They said, our master is Allah. Why is the plural being used if one person's at their deathbed? The idea of a plural here is you may have felt that you're the only one going through this. But centuries before you, a mother went through this when she was putting a baby in the water. And centuries before that, a man went through this when his father kicked him out of the house. And centuries before that, there are believers and prophets, good people, all across history and all across the world that you've never met, that you've never known, who've gone through exactly the same struggles you're going through in their own way, and they held on to Allah like you held on to Allah. And you're actually connected to them in this ayah. You're not alone. They may have died thousands of years ago, but you have a deep and intimate connection with them, just like you have a connection with Allah Azza wa Jal. With Allah you're connected by your du'as, and with them you're connected because of the same struggle that you're going through. You know, this is why we make the dua, Al-Hiqna bis-Salihin, join us among the righteous. Join us among the good people. You're not alone. You're part of a legacy. There are people before you that have already left that are praying for you, actually. وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِالَّذِينَ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُوا بِهِم مِّنْ خَلْفِهِمْ. They're congratulating each other of those who haven't yet joined them. أَلَّا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. They're not going to have fear and grief either. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us navigate our fears and navigate our grief and not be overrun by them. May Allah Azza wa Jal keep us from the emotional torture and the emotional manipulation of others. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us a life of freedom from control of His creation and really truly allow us to be pure slaves of His in every sense of the word. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim.